The night a 1,000-year empire died, fall of Constantinople. For over a millennium, it was the beating heart of an empire, the last bastion of the Roman world. A city that stood as a magnificent bridge between East and West. Constantinople, with its impenetrable walls and its immense wealth, was more than just a capital. It was a symbol of divine order, a beacon of civilization in a world of shifting powers and chaos. By the 15th century, however, the glorious Byzantine Empire was a shadow of its former self, its territories reduced to a handful of outposts and the great city itself gilded and magnificent, a mere island in an ever-rising sea of Ottoman power. This is the story of the final desperate struggle for that legendary city, a siege that would pit a fragile, dying empire against a resurgent, ambitious one. It is a story of faith, courage, and technological warfare, an epic clash that would not only decide the fate of a city but would also mark the end of the Middle Ages and the dawn of a new, global era. The last beacon of Rome. In the early 1450s, the Byzantine Empire, once the undisputed heir to Rome's imperial glory, was in its final agonizing death throes. Its vast territorial holdings had been systematically eroded by centuries of warfare, political infighting, and the relentless pressure of a rising Muslim power to the east. By this time, the once mighty empire consisted of little more than the city of Constantinople itself, and a few disconnected territories in Greece. Yet, the city remained a marvel of the world, protected on three sides by water and on its western landward side by the massive, multi-layered Theodosian walls, a defensive masterpiece that had held against countless sieges for over 1,000 years. Constantinople seemed impregnable. Its harbour, the Golden Horn, was a bustling hub of trade, secured by a massive chain that could be stretched across its entrance to prevent any enemy fleet from entering. The city was home to the Hagia Sophia, a cathedral so grand it was said to have been built by angels, and it was the spiritual and cultural heart of the Orthodox Christian world. Despite its political and military decline, Constantinople still held immense symbolic value, and its final emperor, Constantine XI Palaiologos, knew that the city, and with it the last flicker of the Roman Empire, was on borrowed time, surrounded on all sides by the young and ambitious Ottoman Sultanate. The ambition of a young conqueror, Sultan Mehmed II, who ascended to the Ottoman throne in 1451 at the age of just 19, was a man of fiery ambition and keen intellect. He was not like his predecessors, who had tried and failed to take Constantinople. Mehmed had studied its defenses, its history, and its weaknesses, with an almost obsessive focus. He saw the city not as a mere military objective, but as the prophesied capital of his new empire, the final piece in the puzzle of his imperial dream. His first act of aggression was to build the formidable fortress of Rumeli Hisari, on the European shore of the Bosphorus, directly across from an existing Ottoman fortress. This effectively cut off Constantinople from any naval aid from the Black Sea, a clear declaration of his intent. But Mehmed's greatest weapon was not stone or steel. It was his mind and his willingness to embrace a new, devastating form of warfare. He hired a Hungarian cannon master named Urban, who, with Ottoman resources, forged a massive cannon of unprecedented size and power. This monstrous cannon, a technological marvel of the age, was to be his key to breaking down the impregnable walls of the great city. Mehmed was not just a sultan, he was a brilliant strategist, a grand chess master who was prepared to use every resource and every ounce of his relentless will to achieve his ultimate goal. The siege begins. In April of 1453, the Ottoman army arrived at the gates of Constantinople, a sight of overwhelming force that must have chilled the hearts of the city's defenders. Estimates vary, but Mehmed's army numbered well over 80,000 men, a diverse force of elite janissaries, regular infantry, and cavalry, all supported by a formidable navy of over 100. Inside the city, Emperor Constantine XI had a meager force of only around 7,000 men, a mixed group of Byzantine soldiers and a small number of foreign volunteers, most notably the Genoese and Venetian mercenaries. Despite the overwhelming odds, the defenders were resolute, relying on the strength of their legendary walls and their deep faith. The siege began with the thunderous roar of Mehmed's giant cannons, their massive stone balls slamming into the outer walls of Constantinople, a sound that no living person had ever heard before. While the walls held, the damage was undeniable. For weeks the city endured a relentless bombardment, a psychological and physical assault that tested the limits of their courage. The siege was a contest of wills, a daily rhythm of terrifying explosions and the tireless work of the defenders to repair the breaches before the next assault. The unbelievable maneuvers. As the siege dragged on, the defenders proved their legendary resilience. The Golden Horn chain successfully blocked the Ottoman navy from entering the harbour and flanking the city's land wall. The defenders' morale was boosted by a series of naval victories, and by the fact that the massive cannons, while destructive, were slow to reload and prone to cracking under their own immense force. But Mehmed II was not a man to be defeated by conventional means. He devised a plan so audacious and so grand in its scale that it was considered impossible to bypass the chain. He ordered the construction of a series of wooden rollers and a path over the steep hills behind the city. In a single night, his men, with immense effort and teamwork, dragged his ships, over 70 of them, over land and into the Golden Horn. The sight of an enemy fleet sailing over a hill and appearing in the city's harbour was a devastating shock to the defenders. The city was now truly surrounded. The Ottoman navy could now attack the weakest part of the city's defences, the sea walls along the Golden Horn. This single act of genius and will, a feat of engineering that defied belief, signalled to the city that Mehmed was willing to do whatever it took to break their resolve. The final hour, with his forces in place and the city weakened by weeks of constant bombardment, Mehmed II planned his final, all-out assault for the night of May. The attack began at 1:30 am, with waves of Ottoman soldiers, light infantry first, a chaotic and furious tide of humanity against the weary defenders. The fight was brutal and ferocious, a desperate clash in the dark. As the first waves were repelled, Mehmed's elite janissaries, his shock troops, launched their attack on a critical gate, their relentless assault proving too much for the exhausted defenders. A small unnoticed breach in the city's walls, the Kirka Porta, or small gate, was found ajar, and a small group of Ottoman soldiers managed to slip through, raising the Sultan's flag on the walls. It was the beginning of the end. Emperor Constantine XI, seeing that all was lost and refusing to be captured or to surrender, famously cast off his royal insignia and charged into the fray with his remaining soldiers, fighting to his last breath. He was never seen again, a final noble gesture from the last Roman emperor. The city's legendary walls were finally breached, and the Ottoman forces poured in, bringing a swift and violent end to over 1,000 years of Byzantine rule. A new age is born. With the city conquered, Sultan Mehmed II, now forever known as the Conqueror, made his triumphal entry into Constantinople. He rode on horseback directly to the Hagia Sophia, where he ordered the cathedral to be converted into a mosque, a symbolic act that cemented the end of one empire and the beginning of another. The fall of Constantinople was more than just the end of a city. It was an event that sent shockwaves across the globe and ushered in a new era. It marked the end of the Byzantine Empire, the last remnant of the ancient Roman Empire, and solidified the Ottoman Empire as a major world power. The fall of the city to Muslim rule was a major factor in spurring European exploration, as Western powers now had to find new sea routes to the east, a quest that would lead to the Age of Discovery. The fall of Constantinople is a testament to the immense power of human ambition, the resilience of a people, and the final brutal end of an era that had endured for over a millennium. The echoes of that night still resonate today, a timeless story of a city that in its final moments changed the course of world history forever.